So I'm Noella, who's been a religious sister for the last 45 years. I would like to share my experiences of my interreligious thought, my interreligious mission. So basically, in the 80s, when I was a very young sister, we were very much with Gutierrez, the liberation apologist of South America. And he talked a lot about infatuation and insertion, and that were the buzzwords of the 80s as far as mission was concerned. And I was very influential. Because it meant going to villages, it meant inserting ourselves into different cultures. And I think for the young religious, it is a bit daunting and challenging. And yes, I was in a part of India which is very orthodox. And the Catholicism I experienced there was even worse. And soon I was out of the villages. And I came to Bombay, where I've been for the last 28 years. And I began with a very secular group as one of the core team. Let me introduce you to my core team first. One is a documentary filmmaker. She lives in with her partner, and they both make excellent documentary. The second is was the president of the Himalayan Club now. She's P. Gujarati, married a Maharashtrian Kannadiga. And the children are known as Potpuri. Bhelpuri is instead. That is me, a religious dad. And the fourth is an actor, a very reputed actor. And she is Punjabi, married to somebody from UP. This is our meeting place, a real assortment of background, very rich from what our experiences tell us. Because I wouldn't be able to say I'm from India, I'm from Goa or Bengal or Bombay, because I'm really pan-Indian with all the transfers that I have in India and out of India. So I would call myself a world citizen. So the four of us were there together with our different religious backgrounds, atheist backgrounds, agnostic backgrounds, no religion at all. And we were given a common task, or what attracted us was the common task of educating the most underprivileged children of Bombay. Underprivileged would mean they're coming from a very low incomes, heterogeneous society. Their parents would be construction workers. Their parents would be seasonal workers that have come to Bombay for work, or their parents would be migrant workers also. Sometimes the children go along with them to different locations where they work, and sometimes they're in Bombay, and you can see them. Maybe all of you have seen pictures of the hutments along the roadside, plastic roofs of the hutments along. This is where our children stay. But Bombay being as diverse as it is, we have schools run in 8 languages. It will surprise most people in the country also, but we have Hindi, Marathi, Gujarati, Tamil, Telugu, Urdu for the Muslims, and Kannada. So that's 8 languages. And so we officially designed programs for them. It's a program of 150 hours stretched over 6 teacher learning kits, kind of idiot proof. Because everybody would have so many different ideologies, but we wanted to put our ideology across that there's no right or wrong in anything. We would have right-wing teachers, we would have balanced teachers, we might have teachers from minority sections of the. We didn't want their ideologies to take front stage. So that's why we've done it that way. So to accommodate also our children and what opinions they bring to class. It's not only the teachers that are teaching them, also we call them teacher learning kits. And for me, that spirituality of coming together to work for the children was something where we had to leave our own spiritualities or religions or no religions behind, because this attracted and bound us together and still binds us together in our search for meaningful, equitable education. Where all children should have equal education regardless of whether they are poor or rich. So there are 6 values really that which we have put to use. These values would be equality for all human beings and respect for all, sensitivity towards beliefs and cultures and ways of life which are different from ours, celebrating the diversity that exists in nature and in culture, understanding the interdependence of all living beings, concern for the environment. And the last would be respect for work and dignity of all living. As you can see, they are very crystal. They underline quite a few things that we hear from Francis in the Catholic Church. But these are also universal. So we can't claim to be Christian at all. For instance, the church says there are certain rights for the human person. Call to family and community, rights and responsible, option for the poor and vulnerable, dignity of work, solidarity, care for God's patient. They're definitely very deal with subjects that the syllabus doesn't touch. For instance, we deal with the curse that cast us for the last 3,000 years and what are you going to do about it? We deal with tribals and how they occupy the best parts of the country because they know how to look after our forested areas. And we have to learn from them that that is coming down. So what do you do about it? We deal with something. What is progress? Does progress mean for highways, or does it mean 2 square meals for everybody in India? So then we can say we're brother and sister. And democracy means the government is in our hands. We have to choose them. So we must know what democracy is like. And really, we've done it in a very beautiful way because it's all through activities, asking the children for their opinions. And we have a worksheet that goes back to the family. So the family knows all the work we're doing and they discuss it at home and then it comes back to school, oftentimes the next day or the next week. Just to give you a small example, we talk of caste. And in India, children who belong to one caste cannot eat with children of another caste. So when we're dealing with that 3,000-year curse of our country called caste, we tell these children that we're going to make a dish called bhel puri. So one has to bring an onion, the second has to bring a tomato, the third will bring 2 chilies, the fourth will bring puffed rice, and so on and so forth. And one will bring some oil, and the other will bring salt and some powder, pepper powder, chili powder, whatever it is. And the children spent a whole session making that bhel puri together. But the important part of it is that they have to eat it together also. So that is cooking, and it's such a pleasure. And you can hear the shouts of the children, enjoying the cooking and enjoying the making and enjoying the eating also. So that is one of the highlights of our program. What does society do for the ones we don't want to include? So we break barriers like that of caste and religion and class. After doing this series of teacher learning kits called Sangati, we thought it's time to educate the teachers also. So we made a program of 50 modules for the pre-service teacher training program so that they understand what they are teaching. And it's also going very well. We are in 14 different government pre-service teacher training colleges around the city. And we're in about 800 government schools. Also in ashram schools for tribal children and outer Bombay. One of our values is interdependence of human beings. And Pope Francis, when he's talking about the environment and care for the earth, he stresses a lot on that interdependence. I'm just mentioning this because these are universal values, regardless of what religion you belong to. It's not that the Pope says it or Rome says it that we have to do it here in India. No. I don't belong to a Christian organization. I carry my Christian values with me, which for me are universal values. So we also, related to this interdependence of beings, living beings, we have a game. It's like a web. So one will have a spider, the second one will have a fly, and the third one has something else, and the fourth one. And so when one drops, for instance, when the fly drops the thread of the web, the spider also has to drop the web. But the spider's on a tree, so the tree also has to drop the string. And so you realize when this interdependence is over, nothing is left. What you gave me was a lot about the women of Rome and the Catholic Church and Phoebe. And what do I know about Phoebe? And what do I know about the Catholic and women of the Catholic Church? Yes, I know the 4 women doctors of the Catholic Church and all that. But I was wondering how it influenced us being so far away from Rome. The Old Testament is full of a history which is not our own. We still follow it religiously. And maybe at the moment, even though it's not relevant, Melchizedek and all those people, we still follow it because we don't have anything else to go to. I think it will be a long way forward if we take our history of India. We have a Maria Goretti in Nirbhaya. We have many unsung heroines who are the domestic violence survivors. They're not victims, they're survivors because they overcome that and continue life. That means there's a resurrection there also. We have Rani Maria, a sister who was fighting for people's rights and who was murdered. We have Rani of Jhansi to talk about another religion. Rani of Jhansi was the queen of Jhansi who led her people to war for freedom. We have Sultana Razia, who was the only sultan of Delhi in her time. We have Annie Besant. Annie Besant was an English woman who came to India, who taught. She was very proactive in teaching women. And of course, the saint of it all was Savitribai Phule, who was an excellent teacher. So we have all these people in our legacy, a rich legacy, and still we go to Phoebe and Deborah, and very good. I'm not putting them down at all, but we need to grow more in our own ancestry, in our own history, in our own wealth. I like that we have diversity in all our heroes. Our heroines and heroes are from different religions. So, who's the chosen race? Because the Israelis will say they are the chosen race. Then we have the Catholic Church, of course we are the chosen race. And we have the Japanese who also say they are the chosen race. So who's the chosen race? Isn't it a joke? Isn't that a futile question also to ask? I just want to mention something that we deliberately included in our teacher learning kits, that is religion and emotions. We didn't necessarily want to touch on any religion, not to make the children biased in any particular way. But we thought it important to talk about religion because religion is the thing that is most divisive in the world. And not only divisive in the world, but it whips people into a frenzy of emotions. And that's what the damage is done in our country. I don't know about wars, but the world wars are just the same. Vietnam War was just the same. We cannot reach out to the other religions because our stance in the church is so conservative. For me, it's a thing of power. If you want people to believe you, you have to keep them conservative. You have to hold on to them. They are the ones who bring you your money. They are the ones who bring you your status. They are the ones who give you your wealth. Your power. Who gives us this formation? It's the clergyman, the patriarchal hierarchy. Even though Vatican Council, I think, was in the 60s and ended in the 70s, what has happened to women? Vatican Council is so forward-looking as far as women are concerned. Nothing is happening. Our future is going backwards instead of saying back to the future. So we did a gender justice study for women religious in the country, and I think some of the findings are very important. Regarding property matters, we discovered that many times the documents of the properties are not given to sisters. The bishops keep it, the parish priests keep it, and they say, no, sisters, it's safe and our keep. But why is that? Aren't we capable of keeping our own documents? But what is happening now is that because the documents are in the hands of the bishops, they are asking for the land back again. Before, what was a gentleman's agreement given for mission is being asked back again. And sometimes the sisters are not only being asked for the land, but they're also being asked for the buildings that the sisters have built for their own mission. So is that Christian? Then you have the thing of sacramental blackmail. If the parish priest is not happy with you adhering to his vision of what a parish should be like, he refuses to come from us. There was this very progressive congregation who said, if the fathers don't want to come from us, it's fine. We'll continue with our parallel liturgical services. And they had very nice ones because they had sisters who had just returned from Africa, where because of the lack of priests in the country they were in, they were trained in having these services, and they were the ones who were conducting that particular service. The parish priest came when he heard about it, locked the tabernacle and took the key to the bishop. There's no need to say more about ego. There's no need to say more about power, male chauvinism. It's all there. You know, when parishes have schools, the parish priest is the manager, or the headmaster or principal, and then below the principal is the chief teacher, or whatever they say in different languages here. So the parish priest will get the salary of the principal, and the chief teacher or the supervisor, somebody who's normally a sister doing all the work, will get even oftentimes less than what a trained teacher gets, because she belongs to a congregation and the congregation has to look after her. Is this fair? Somehow it's difficult to take up cases with the bishop, because the bishop oftentimes throws up his hands in despair. He says, there's nothing I can do with my clergy. Bishops will never advocate for sisters, never. Because they talk so rarely to sisters, they don't understand their experience. How can they advocate for somebody who they don't know anything about? It doesn't make sense. So, the bishops are never going to talk about equality, about decision making. You have discipleship of equals. Bishops don't know anything about it. Why should they? So, when I think about things like that, I said, if we want the church to change, if we want the church to go forward, the men are not going to change it. They're very stable in their own position of power. And who's going to give up power in this world? Nobody. So it's left to us. We have to be constructive. We have to do it in a nice way. We don't have to do it in the same way as men are doing. Definitely not. But we have to be creative and constructive in the way we do it. And also to carry them along with us, not leave them back the way they left us. But my work always helps me and inspires me to bring it back to the church from my secular sphere. CRI is a Conference of Religious of India. We are 1,500 sisters and 300 fathers, so 1,800 of us in Bombay. Before we would have a recollection feast or recollection for Christmas given by the bishops. Recently we've changed all that. I was very interested in joining the CRI Executive Committee, and I was very interested in opening the window, should I say, of our CRI. So I've brought in that whole socio-political stance of my work in a secular NGO, and I think it's really appreciated. What happens in the family, so in society, and so also in our communities. Family is a microcosm of society and also of our communities. The last time we had a meeting was about spirituality and mental health. There was a precedented number of participants there who were very interested in knowing how spirituality helps mental health. So it's a two-way traffic really. I go as Catholic with my values to my secular ambit, where I share them in a universal framework, and I also bring back socio-political values, which is very important because sometimes we religious tend to live in our own little ghettos or convents. We know what's happening, who's sick, and mother said this, and somebody tripped on a banana, but we don't know what's happening on the road outside. We don't know who's standing for election in our constituency, leave alone anything else. So I think it's been a very enriching interchange, a very enriching dialogue, which I hope will deepen in the future. And if you have any suggestions, please let us know.